So, cultural differences are a very, very big issue here in this fight that we got going on with this civil rights stuff. I guess I can give you a perspective piece, maybe show you what I've kind of surmised. So I've done many times in different videos in different ways. It's kind of what I like to do, just break things down, analyze what I see if I can make some sense of something that really doesn't make sense to me yet. I'm trying to understand the culture of white America as it pertains to what being offended means, what offending others represents, and the sensitivity within both of those two topics. Because a lot of times we look at situations in regards to this country and those people, and I say that in a respectful manner, and we kind of say, well, they don't. And I say they, generalizing, so please extract yourself from this as I have if you don't fall in this category. In my mind, you're not a part of it. But it seems to me that people of the lighter shade of hue tend to be offended by different things than maybe say myself. Like, for example, if I see somebody walking down the street and they have on garment from their country, let's say they're from an Arabic country, they're wearing their garment over their head. In my mind, that's a respectful thing. I am to respect their culture. I don't know why they wear it. I don't understand why they wear it. But because I have a culture of my own, where people have said things and done things that have resonated negatively with me, in my mind, it's incumbent upon myself to be respectful of them when I see them and, on my own, in my personal life. I take their respect for their culture as seriously as I respect my own. Not to say that I will follow their culture or do what they do, but when I see someone being offensive to them, I can understand how they feel, and I can look inside myself and say, I don't want to treat them that way because I've been treated a certain way and I don't like how it feels. That's what's in my heart. And I don't speak for no black people, no white people, or nobody else. I'm just talking about Brandon when I say that. I notice a lot of white people, when they're speaking about the cultures of Mexican people, black people, sometimes Arabic people, etc., Asian communities, a lot of times, people that I've seen, they tend to not take it very seriously. They don't feel like their intentions should be received as offensively as they often are. They tend to think that because whatever they feel isn't serious, that you shouldn't take the offense seriously. And how I equate that in my head and how I come to grips with that is I just assume that they don't have a culture that they pride as deeply. See, me and the Arabic person can relate upon that because I look at my culture here in African America as an African American, and I look around and I say, well, we take our hip hop seriously, we take our various different facets of our culture seriously, or even if we've adapted to other people's cultures, we personalize it and make it our own, and we don't want you to disrespect it. Okay? If we're Muslim or what have you, you better be solid around us and treat our cultures with respect, and we expect that our peers will do the same in regards to yours. That's something that comes with being an ethnic person, I believe. I don't see that pride within the people that I'm describing, the white people that I'm describing. And there are a lot of them don't fall in that category. I feel like I have to say this over and over again. And the reality is, it's not because I don't think people are respectful enough, excuse me, I don't think people are smart enough to realize that I'm not generalizing, but I think the culture that we're in is that of, if you exclude, you're doing all right. But if you refuse to exclude and you generalize, then there are going to be people who personalize it and stop listening. So I don't want those people to not hear how I'm putting things together because of how I word the entire pot of the conversation, which is white people. So it's almost like a complex that we're all developing on both sides. Try our best to be politically correct and inclusive and all of that good stuff. So that's what I'm attempting to do here. And in doing so, you can get derailed, which is something I can relate to those on the opposite side about. You have to stop and pause and write disclaimers for every little thing that you say. It's very, very difficult to get a point across. So from that level, I understand why sensitivity can be a bit of an annoyance, especially when it's hypersensitive eras like the one we're in. So I get that. There's something to be said for people who are trolls, who are able to get through life joking, who can face the world's traumas with a little bit of fun in their heart, or for those who can absorb the world's traumas and make light of it, kind of keep their mental health strong, and those around them keep their morale high by just cracking a joke or two. There's room for that. Sometimes it gets a little out of hand. Sometimes it's downright evil and vicious. But I'm not one to think that troll behavior is just the worst thing in the world. Sometimes we just take things too seriously, and I think there's a balance to be had from the individual to individual. So some are going to troll more than others. Some are going to be more going to be more likely to respect a person's cultures than others, and that's kind of along the lines of what we're talking about. So I get that. Even as a speaker of in my own right, I get that. But there's something to be said for disrespecting a person's culture and understanding why a person would be offended, which is the meat and potatoes of what I'm trying to talk about. They're offended by things that we're not offended by, from speaking freely. They're offended by not being included in a protest fight. Like if I see the Pride movement in my neighborhood, I'm not gonna come out there and picket against them because I'm not being included in their conversation. They ain't supposed to say Black Lives Matter and Pride Matters. Like, they can have a Pride Day excluding me, and it's not the end of the world, because I'm from a culture where we are not the center of attention and we're comfortable nestled in that space. I think white America has developed a somewhat of a complex about not being supreme. I don't even think it's somewhat of a complex. I think it's a very much a prevalent complex at this point about not being included and not being supreme. And in that comes a dismissive attitude about other people's cultures, a lack of couth, I guess is the word, in regards to respecting people's cultures in some cases, or something like a look down upon you type of energy that comes from just believing that I'm the number one thing in the earth and everything is underneath me and I'm above it. And then it just comes down to just like your regular day to day. Like they really don't give a damn about humanity, if I'm being completely honest. The only goodness that they truly display is toward one another in that regard. They'll respect one another. They'll be damned if they allow you to disrespect them. But the way they equate is respect and how to receive and give respect are very different than the others cultures that appear to be a bit more ethnic. Layman's terms, a lot of white folks are just very dismissive of people of other cultures. They don't care to respect your culture. They think it's beneath them to respect your culture. They think it's beneath them to have to acknowledge that your culture actually exists. And they think it's beneath them to have to explain to you why you need to respect the fact that you're here if you're doing all of that on their land. I don't feel that way. When I see Asian people have Chinatown or Chinese people have Chinatown rather, good. It's not like I'm not welcome there. I can go to the restaurant, sit down and eat. I can go into their establishments and buy something. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that discrimination doesn't exist in these places, nor am I personalizing this as a black person when saying that. I'm more so talking about me as whether I'm me or I'm you or somebody else. It's not like they're telling you you're not welcome here, is what I'm trying to express. So you're not excluded. It's what I'm trying to express. Or, for example, if you come to a black neighborhood, we're not kicking white people out of black neighborhoods. We're not doing that. You may not feel all that comfortable here in some cases, depending on who you are and how you are. Depending on your views or what comes out of your mouth, you may not find yourself too comfortable in our community. But you're still ultimately welcome. We don't make it so that you feel like you're not able to share land with us. The black man has never been that way. I don't know the Hispanic man to have ever been that way. You can live where I live. You're not taking anything from me by sharing space with me. You're not killing me by exercising your right to be free in my neighborhood. You can play your music. You can do your thing. I can smell the smell of your cooking. I can even eat some of your food. You can come to my house. Like, that's how I've known black people to be. Especially when we feel like we're loved and respected and appreciated. It's not in our nature to do what it is that they are doing. It's the moral of what I'm trying to say. As a black person, I can say from a first person perspective, it's not in our natural nature to be disrespectful. It's not in our natural nature to exclude people, which is why phrases like "all lives matter" is so hurtful. Because we ain't even freaking like that. You guys are like that. Which is why you display yourself in such a selfish way when you say these things. And yet, it seems like you have a retort for everything that anyone ever says about how they feel like they should be respected. I want to be respected. Well, in doing so, you better do it this way. Still trying to police my behavior. Still trying to tell me how to react to bad behavior. Or mistreatment, rather. Still trying to tell me how to react to something that you have never been faced with yourself. I love being myself because I am able to both have pride in the center of a space, and I can find security in a corner of a room. I don't need to inhabit the entire room in order to be secure within myself as a person and as a people. We can have a lot and still celebrate, and we can have nothing and still make do. We've already proven that to ourselves. I think a lot of races have proven that to themselves over the years. A lot of people know that they can handle that. The white race doesn't appear to be able to handle that as a whole. Not individuals, my God, I feel like I have to keep saying this. But as a whole, the culture is, if I'm not the center of attention, and if the humanity is not pointed in my direction while giving me a pass for being however I choose to be, then I am going to rebel against it, and I am going to try to silence it, and I am going to express that I feel it is evil. But evil is not defined, and I said this in another video as well, as something that opposes yourself. Evil defines the mistreatment of others. Evil defines different characteristics within bad and awful actions, behaviors, and concepts. Bad as in opposing goodwill, destructive, something that tears down, something that brings forth pain, agony, hurt, sadness in those that do not deserve it. That's what evil's about. It takes away life. It takes away progress. It destroys, it mistreats, and it prevents from rebuilding. That's what evil is. They, in how they use the word evil, that's not what evil is. They look at evil as just simply something that doesn't allow them to continue to behave the way that they choose to, which is in their minds a freedom. But they don't afford that freedom to everyone. They don't treat everyone well, good, nice, fairly. And I, of sound mind and body, recognize that to be an evil action. Not because it's directed at me or excludes me or puts me in a position to feel like I am not a part of it, which is also exclusion, obviously. But just simply something that doesn't allow people to live, be, doesn't allow animals to live, be, doesn't allow people to have fair shots, etc. Anything that mistreats a living thing or allows its suffering could be defined as evil. The opposition of goodness, happiness, success, fairness, or however you look at it. So when I hear them say evil, or you're evil, or these evil people are trying to tear down our Confederate statues, you've been warped in your definition of evil, if that's how you think. The evil came from the people who you're celebrating. The evil came from your ancestors who did a lot of bad stuff. Evil comes from you who sanction a lot of evil stuff that's going on right now, like children being locked up in ice cages. That's evil, actual evil. Me telling you not to do that because it's evil is not evil. So these are the type of things, the type of cultural disconnects that I find between myself and how I think and those that I listen to and pay attention to who express themselves on the other end of the spectrum. I always try to prepare myself to look at myself, even when I think I'm so right. I always try to second guess myself and double check, see if I'm making sense, see if what I've done is right, see if I've expressed any evil in my actions. And sometimes I find that I have. Sometimes I'm not right. Sometimes I'm just displaying flawed nature just like any other human being, and that's okay because I can grow from that. And I'm open to growing from that because I desire to see myself. I desire to be held accountable, and I desire to be honest with myself, if no one else. That's missing from them. That's missing. That desire to hold oneself accountable because it's good for us, it's missing. They would rather hold you accountable, control the lay of the land, so that they can create their own destiny without accountability. If I own everything and I control the minds of everyone, I create the laws. I don't have to live by those laws. So everywhere I look, I control. All the guns are mine. All the prisons are owned by my friends and people that I know and trust. We don't have to be good. Control it all. But with that comes the fat and happy, as I call it, being fat and happy. You can't possibly get as strong mentally and spiritually as you need to be if you're always satisfied, fat and happy, and never holding yourself accountable. You will become weak. I don't care how much you own. I don't care how much you have control over. Your threshold for what you can endure is weakened by the time spent in control of it all. And that's why, as I surmise it and as I see it, these individuals have such a tough time seeing the fruit and holding themselves accountable. It's a weakness. They're afraid to. Seeing the fruit in not being the center of attention. Stand to the corner and let people have their moment. You don't have to be involved. You don't have to be insecure about being involved about everything. You're not going to be pushed off your land if you're not on top of everyone. That's an insecurity. that white supremacy has. It's very, very deep. They believe and are projecting upon others the same evil and torturous mistreatment that they're willing to show and have been showing to everyone else. They want you to believe that you are capable of doing what they have done because they believe that. Because like a lot of people who are not self-aware, they can't see that the actions and reactions that they cause are theirs and theirs alone. The world isn't you. Not everyone is like you. And it would explain why you treat everybody so poorly. Because you believe that everyone is just as vicious and evil as you are. Just as selfish and self-absorbed and lacking self-awareness as you are. The reality is you are an underdeveloped, and lacking evolution. You are underdeveloped and lacking evolution. That is what's taking place here. While you're sitting here saying that you're above everybody and that you have, we are beneath you, the reality is we have evolved past you. Because we're not afraid of the things you are afraid of. We're not in a space where we need to need the things that you need. And the things that we're asking for are things that every human being would ask for, including yourself, if those things were taken from you. You could not survive what you put us through if it were done to you right now. Couldn't survive it. Luckily enough for you, most of the rest of us are nothing like you. You are the worst of us. So you don't have to protect yourself against other yous, because there are no other yous. You are the big bad wolf on the block, white supremacy. You're the worst of us. You're the worst. And you will be happy to know that the rest of us are nothing like you at all. It's the truth. I've said all of that to come to this point right here. We're nothing like you. Things that you think are evil are actually called, it's accountability. The things that you call celebrating, the things that are good, the things that you're okay with, actually evil. Your jokes, the things that you make fun of, things you don't take very seriously, very important. People's cultures, how they feel, how they've lived, the works that they've put on this earth, and what they've built through culture and life and foods and things of that nature. That stuff is a reflection of their ancestors and the pride. Your ancestors' reflection is the mistreatment that people are protesting against to this very second. So it stands to reason why you don't take anybody's culture seriously, because yours is that of murder, shame, rape, evil, selfishness, self-absorbedness, and a lack of self-awareness. I didn't say all of this to be disrespectful. I said all this to say this is what you display through your actions and through your inability to reason. This is what you're showing us. If you don't like what's coming out of my mouth, you have to take a look at yourself, if at all possible, to see why I would come to such a conclusion. I recognize that I have a very, very, very special ability to take points, sort them out, and spit them out in such a way that makes it very, very understandable for people to get what I'm saying. Whether you're the smartest person in the world or somebody not very smart at all, even a small child, you're going to be able to get most of what I'm saying. I speak clearly. Sometimes I use bigger words than I should. Sometimes I misspeak. That's cool. But I am gifted when it comes to analytical thinking. Just analyzing what's in front of me, breaking it apart, putting it back together. And I've studied this. I've studied the parallels between other evil entities and white supremacy. And there's very, very, very strong consistencies. But the one thing that always comes about is a lack of self-awareness and a lack of a desire to hold oneself accountable. You'll find that in every single entity that is evil. Those two things. They're always there. They can't see themselves. And they're afraid to hold themselves accountable. Because they have to be able to convince themselves that what they're doing is okay. So they have to convince themselves that everyone around them is either worse than them or just like them. And they have to convince themselves that what they're doing is fine because of it. It's not fine. You're on the wrong side of history if you're rolling with this Trump shit, if you're rolling with this racism shit, this KKK, whatever type of evil entity, if you're pushing destruction of human lives. You're pushing the destruction of your own reputation. You have to understand that. May this be the last time we walk around thinking that we're not displaying something while behaving a certain way. You're putting on, you're allowing people to think these things of you by showing this type of behavior for a person like myself to break apart and analyze. This is what you're showing me. Take it for what it's worth, ladies and gentlemen. My name is BDF44. I'm out. Peace.